Salah and Mbappe hit 50 Champions League goals in a very exciting Champions League match day. World Cups 2030 and 2034 are being announced as we speak, and a uniquely American soccer event goes down tonight. The expansion draft for San Diego FC. That and more here on Wednesday's Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kick Around, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's most entertaining country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr, happy to be joined by the host of Winalda Talks Football on Sirius XMFC and many more things, Mr. Jason Davis. Good morning.
Do you have some extra coffee today, Rob? What's going on over here, man? You were so kind of chill in the pre-show, and now it's like you shot out of a cannon. What's going on?
Big news coming out about my local soccer team, Oakland County FC. Big news coming out today, and it's work holiday party day. So after this, I'm free. I'm usually weighed down by the prospect of like 8 to 10 hours of work after we do the show. And, you know, it's fun times after this. So I'm feeling much lighter and much springier right now.
Okay. You're going to get in your cups, going to get a little tipsy around the boss. I always think that's dicey. I have not worked in that kind of environment in a very long time. I'm kind of thankful I get to do what I love, but I haven't been to one of those holiday parties in a long time, and they always feel like dicey propositions if there's alcohol involved.
You're definitely skirting on the edge between currying favor or ruining your career at those sort of parties. Yeah. I've been embarrassing party moment adjacent, but thankfully, up until this point, have avoided it. I remember there's some people got in trouble when I used to, in a past life, I worked for a professional hockey team, and there was some not approved staff player interactions.
Ooh, yeah, that's always. Ooh, that's not. That's never great.
And then a good friend of mine, I went to a partner of mine's holiday party. Worked for a big company, big holiday party. DJ threw down, turned down for what, and she fell down for what in the middle of a big crowd. Ouch. And she cared a lot more than everyone else did, but that was quite a moment to fall down for what was kind of funny.
Here's a rabbit hole reference for all the old MLS heads out there. Famously, there was a never mind. I'm not going to tell tales out of school. There was famously a player for DC United, early 2000s. May or may not have had a relationship with an executive's daughter. May have been a thing. Could have been a thing. Yeah, let's just move on.
An executive's daughter, not even just your manager. That's like one of the big bosses. Holy cow! That stuff happens. Well,
it does. And I think is it Richard Fleming, the broadcaster for the Colorado Rapids? I do believe that his daughter had a relationship with Sam Vines. Which I'm not sure if that's a thing anymore. I'm now feeling like TMZ over here for some reason. Okay, let's move on. It's getting weird.
Oh boy. So let's move on to telling people that they need to subscribe to Morning Kick Around. Let's get those numbers pumping up. Tell your friends this is the future home of the American soccer conversation. So get in on it early. Be a foundational piece to the MK Ultras, joining up over there. And be sure to click subscribe. Follow us along on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and there we go on the screen, Blue Sky as well. And also, we're going to start taking listener questions. Write a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Write listener question, and also if you want to get in on the Get to Know Your District segment, we're going to take a little peek in and get some boots on the ground stories from the various soccer happenings across the world that are happening all across this fine, large country. Lots to get to, so let's kick on into today's long balls. Let's go. Here on Wednesday morning, long ball number 1, Tuesday was packed full of exciting Champions League games. Amongst the highlights, I want to kick this off because I had an absolute blast catching up on this at the end of the day yesterday. Real Madrid 3, Atalanta
Yes.
2. Real Madrid
Yes.
did Real Madrid things yesterday, and Atalanta, always good for the entertainment value. Some absolutely awesome goals. Great calls from the illustrious Ray Hudson as well.
That is one of those games that definitely delivered on its promise. We know
Oh, yeah.
Atalanta can play some soccer. Gasparini is a very good coach, and I think that Real Madrid is going to feel a little lucky. I think there were some moments Atalanta could have done better. Ademola Lookman is a hell of a player and scored a goal and could have set up another if Retegui gets on the end. Come on, Retegui. What are you doing, man? I don't know. You got to do one of these things when it's Italian. Like, what are you doing, Retegui? Great game. Very entertaining. Big win for Real Madrid. All three of their big guns, their big stars, score on the day. Of course, the other part of that, though, the bad part, Robert, is that Kylian Mbappe left the game in the 36th minute with what I think is being reported as a thigh injury, and I don't know that we have a prognosis quite yet. Will he be missing for a long period of time? That's the big question for Real Madrid as they are closing in on Barcelona. Barcelona's hit a bit of a blip in the league, and I believe Real Madrid, with a game in hand, is only 2 points back. So lots of things happening right now for Carlo Ancelotti and company.
Some of those goals just absolutely blew me away. I mean, the turn for Mbappe's first goal was just, I think I gasped when I saw that. I was just like, oh my goodness. I think Ray Hudson's take was that was cleaner, or no, sharper than a witch's tooth, which which definitely made me chuckle. But just I was, my mouth was agape seeing that goal. And then Vinicius Junior's goal, he scored the second for Madrid. And that was one of the luckiest deflections you could ask for. Came off the Atalanta defender, literally into the path to him to just swing away and score. And then Bellingham, the slow motion of Bellingham, he scored the third and ultimately the winner. The slow-mo replay of Bellingham's goal against Atalanta yesterday, I almost wanted the NFL Films music behind it. Like, he did, cut to the right, or he went left, right, left, shot, and it was a thing of beauty. Seeing a big man like that move so smoothly was awesome. If we were doing highlights as R&B singers, that one would have been Sade, because that was a smooth operation.
Oh, that's a lovely pull, Sade and smooth operator. Yeah, the fact that Bellingham's first goal in the Champions League this season, by the way, just hasn't been nearly as good for him as it was last year when he started his career in Madrid. But we know he's got the talent, we know he's got the ability, and that was a well taken goal for him. So yeah, Real Madrid, and we are now past the halfway point. That was game 6 of 8 in the league phase of the Champions League, and Real Madrid is one of those teams that isn't where you thought they would be. They are in 18th position as of right now, with games still to come today, of course, that could see them bumped lower in the table if, say, a Manchester City wins against Juve. If Juve beats City, they'll jump over Real Madrid as well. I think there's even a chance that Feyenoord could pull above Madrid if they win against Sparta Prague today, which I would expect them to do. So, yeah, Real Madrid could be pushed down nearly to the bottom of that top 24 after 6 matches. They needed that victory.
I don't want to overlook your comment about Ademola Lookman. I mean, I went, whoa. Like, I had a lot of visceral reactions to these highlights. If Purdue back in the day was called the cradle of quarterbacks, right? What would you call Atalanta for strikers?
Strikers.
Because you go there, you turn into an absolute goal-scoring machine. Lookman is just the latest in a line of some goal scorers at that club that's just having an extended period in the sun for a team that's not classically a power in Italy.
Yeah, it's been a great run. They do have this ability, and Gasparini, again, as a manager, to find these guys. Retegui is another example of that. A guy who was at Genoa before he joined Atalanta, where he scored a handful of goals, but 12 goals, something like that. I have to check his accurate numbers right now. I think he's got 12 in the league, 2 in the Champions League already this season. 12 in 15 games in Serie A for Matteo Retegui. De Ketelaere as well has become something of a goal-scoring star for that team. his history, you go back and you look at it, he had been at AC Milan and just hadn't done anything. Joined Atalanta on loan last year, scored double-digit goals, and has already added several goals this season. I think he scored in he scored in this game as well, right? Scored the penalty spot maybe in this game. So, yeah, Atalanta has this ability to find these players and build them up.
Other results on Tuesday, Liverpool stayed perfect in Champions League, winning again 1-0 over Girona. But in more exciting games, 3-2 Villa over Leipzig. Some outstanding goals, and John Duran does it again. That was the most powerful looped shot I can recall in quite some time.
That John Duran has that ability. He has got this knack for taking these shots. You're like, is he really going to let that go from 30? And then somehow, it's not corner. It's not top corner. That's not outside the reach of the goalkeeper from a lateral perspective. It's only that the goalkeeper is 3 or 4 yards off his line. And
which isn't that far. Which isn't very far.
No, it's not. Top spin from John Duran puts that ball, and he had another goal ruled out for offside. That was correctly ruled out for offside. He could have been a double for him. It could have been a Duran situation. It was not in the end. But Villa wins the game. There was a deflection on the goal from Barkley, which benefited Villa. I think they could, if they had gotten out of there with a draw, they would have said that's a pretty good result. The win is massive for them, of course.
Do you blame Galacci at all for that goal for Duran? I mean, the commentators were like, meh.
I mean, it's tough. Again, do you expect the player to hit that shot? Do you expect it to have that kind of top spin when he
wasn't like at the penalty spot or anything. I mean,
No.
There wasn't like a whole lot of room behind him, but
No, there wasn't a lot, but it did feel like that effort was lacking somehow. But again, he got caught in between, just didn't have any leverage to leap to get a hand on that and tip it over. So John Duran gets credit for that. Good goal from him. I don't know what number for his Champions League career that was, Robert, but we should celebrate the 50th goal for a couple. Mbappe scored his 50th goal before coming off against Atalanta. Who else scored a 50th goal?
Mo Salah got his 50th from the spot versus Girona.
Yeah, the lone goal in that win. I do have the top goal scorers in the Champions League in history here that we can take a look at. Ronaldo, of course, leading the way, or he's not in the Champions League anymore. He's not going to add to that total, but 141 is a absolute dumb number. Lewandowski's over 100. Benzema, Raul had that record for a long time before that quartet above him took over. Van Nistelrooy, Shevchenko. Man, do people remember how many goals Andrei Shevchenko scored in the Champions League? I don't think people really do.
I think with the Anglo-centric, people more focus on him being like kind of a Chelsea bust more than like how prolific he really was.
Yeah, but he played in Italy. He played in a bunch of places, Shevchenko. Mueller, Henry. Henry's got 51. That they were talking about Henry on the Paramount Plus broadcast being above 50 because Mbappe and Salah have joined him. Then Inzaghi, Ibrahimovic, Di Stefano. You got to go way back for Di Stefano. So this is the list. I don't think – Mo Salah is going to add to this number. I don't know that we're going to see him reach 70 in his career. That seems like maybe a bit of a stretch. Mbappe, though, at his age, do you think there's any chance? He's got to stay healthy. The Madrid thing really has to start clicking a little bit better. But is there a chance he can double that number, reach that 100 mark, join the elite club that is Ronaldo, Messi, and Lewandowski? Lewandowski's, by the way, still adding to his total as well.
Yeah, Lewandowski is definitely not going away quickly. But to your point about Mbappe, I do think that he could probably double up, provided he remains as healthy as he has so far. I don't see why he wouldn't. And you don't think, if he stays on Madrid for more than a few years, there's more than ample opportunity to score goals there, no doubt. They are definitely one of the highest scoring teams. Other notable results: PSG get a 3-0 over Salzburg. And the last one I thought was exciting was Bayern 5-1 over Shakhtar. Some pretty goals in this. Yeah. You kind of feel bad for Shakhtar because they're obviously in a precarious position, being, in the middle of a war, having to kind of dance around the war and losing a lot of talented players. They
played that game. They played that game in Germany. They played that game, and it wasn't in Bavaria. It wasn't that close to Bayern's home base. I think it was in Schalke Stadium. But they played that game in Germany because the Ukrainian teams don't get to play at home. puts them in a very difficult position. I do like the fact that their goal to open the game, which gave them some momentary hope before Bayern just decided to stomp them. But I do love the fact that it was scored by a Brazilian guy named Kevin.
Yeah,
Kevin, scored Kevin.
yeah. But I understand why they call him Kevin, because at one point they did read out his whole name, and it was about half a dozen names after Kevin followed. But I gotta say,
that's how they
Elise.
do it.
Before we move on,
Oh, yeah.
Elise, his fifth goal, the goal that rounded it out, was just, if you haven't seen it, he dribbles by four guys and does kind of a stutter step in front of the goalie that just like pretty much paralyzes the Shakhtar goalie. That was just smooth. And I thought it was interesting, like, what a glow up. Has any player leveled up as much going from Crystal Palace, like, hopeful talent, or obviously it's good talent, to go into the leading man at one of Europe's biggest teams? And I saw he's the penalty kick taker there. So obviously internally, he's got a lot of respect. You'd think that someone, maybe, I'm not sure if Mueller was off the field at this point, but I was surprised to see Elise as the delegated penalty kick taker.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Harry Kane out injured, so
That too,
opens
obviously.
up that spot. I mean, that's why he's taking them, because
Good point.
Harry Kane is not there right now. No, the glow up for Elise. I mean, it happens occasionally, right, that a player goes from a kind of second tier afterthought kind of club, even in a top league, to one of the biggest clubs in the world, and suddenly like, oh yeah, he was always really good. He was just playing for Crystal Palace. Like he was just playing for Crystal Palace. Now he's with one of the best teams in the world talent wise, and surrounded by those players, the guys that Bayern Munich can bring in. He's going to be better. He's going to look better. He's going to be more productive.
And that Crystal Palace side, that the last couple months of the season last year, when Mateta, Elise, and Eze were all healthy, I mean, that's an all-time like temporary team right there. And for anyone that didn't expect him to take that big step up, you see him when he was surrounded with good players.
It's like Crystal Palace knows what it feels like to be Southampton. That's kind of what's going on here.
Like, we did great, but they all left now. And I got to say that I am starting to actually, outside Liverpool, I think I'm actually slowly over time becoming a little bit of a Crystal Palace fan as like a second team.
Interesting. You like Oliver Glasner? You like the
It's not even the American connection. They've always like played hard. They've gotten big results off of teams.
The American connection, you mean with Chris Richards, or you mean with John Textor as owner?
Yeah, there's some so I guess is Glasner the incoming owner?
No, Glasner's their manager. Isn't Oliver Glasner their manager?
Is he American?
No, he's German. I was Austrian. Sorry, he's Austrian. Let me get that right. Their manager is Oliver Glasner. He's Austrian. I thought you were saying you liked Oliver Glasner, and I think you took that to mean I was talking about their owner, who is John Textor, who also owns Lyon in France, which has the 500 million euro debt that's going to get them relegated if they don't fix it. He also owns Botafogo, who just won Copa Libertadores. He also has a history, while he has been owner of Botafogo, of being on the field and yelling at referees. So, it's I don't know if you like that kind of thing, but there you go. I will say that Crystal Palace, also the only club I know of, because I don't really engage with this on a regular basis, the only club that I know of that had American-style cheerleader/dance team girls.
They've had that for a little while. Yeah, pom poms, the whole outfit. They've got it.
That's so wild to me.
So they have cheerleaders and a mascot. So
they do. Everybody's got a mascot now. I mean, that's a thing.
I remember there was a little while where the mascot was pretty cheeky, and he was like celebrating in front of, maybe that was Harry the Hornet from
that might have been
Watford.
Harry the Hornet. Yeah. Yeah,
always like a good when the mascot world seeps into the actual sporting side. That's always good fun. But great day of Champions League action on Tuesday, and a whole slate of games going on this afternoon. Long ball number 2 here for Wednesday. Pep Guardiola, you've heard of him, right?
Might have, yes.
He came out, said publicly he won't manage another club after City. He did leave, of course, leave the door open for international stuff. But I want to lead off. Do you believe him?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, he says a lot of things, Pep Guardiola, and I don't know that he's a liar, or that he says things he doesn't believe. I think he believes everything he says, but I don't know that necessarily it will come out that way. I don't know that it will happen the way he thinks it will. will he not? Okay, I guess these are two questions. Do I believe that he thinks he won't manage another club after City? Yes. Do I think he could manage another club after City? Of course, anything is possible, right? He could leave City, whether because of the charges. And by the way, it's no longer 115. It is now 130 charges. They found some extra stuff to throw at City during this process. They're like, no, you actually double violated this particular rule.
Or is it like cover up to prevent the discovery of it, thus leading to more? Was that it?
What's going on? Yeah, you covered this up after we didn't realize it. I think it is just there's just so much here, and it's like, does this violation apply to this year or a different year? You had one violation that actually happened in 2 different years, which means it's 2 violations, which now from 115 to 130. He obviously signed his contract extension. He is a company man through and through. He is bought and paid for by City Football Group. Obviously, he's done wonderful things there on the field with the team and winning the titles and doing the 6 and all of that. But he is 100% co-opted by City Football Group at this point. So maybe it's that. Maybe he's just not sure he's ever going to have this kind of environment again and feel connected and feel taken care of and have the transfer kitty that City has had for him over the past 7, 8, 9 seasons, whatever it is. I mean, where are you going to find a situation like that? You're just probably not. So how can you even imagine yourself coaching another club unless you do that sort of like that thing that sometimes managers will do where they go, I want to get back to the purity, the humble part of the game. And
people really want him to test his hand at like a normal, quote unquote, normal club. Like, I feel like people really want to see him test that because he's always been at top-notch organizations.
Yeah, he's been the Phil Jackson of world football. If he ended up managing, Girona, but without, maybe they still get some of the City guys through the system, but not. If you watch that game with Liverpool yesterday, you realize that Girona really is sort of, it is grassroots. It is local football. Their stadium is basically an MLS kind of building. Like you could hear the goalkeeper yelling at his teammates during play, and that just doesn't happen in the Champions League, generally speaking. So, yeah, Pep and Girona, let's do it. Let's go.
I think when we were hypothesizing this, when in November international window, when Willy Woney signed his contract extension, the most realistic thing that was brought up seemed to be for his next role seemed to be some sort of a corporate head of the City group, right?
He's probably going to do a club. In fact, before he signed the contract extension, Rob, didn't we maybe think he would end up doing for City Football Group what Jurgen Klopp is doing for Red Bull?
That seems the most realistic, to be honest.
Yeah, that would seem like the most natural place to go. Like, you've done everything you can possibly do in the club game. You've won all the trophies. There's nothing left. Unless you are so intent on winning a World Cup that you find yourself in international management, and he very well could end up managing Spain. Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. And he did open that door for international football. And I saw somebody, shout out to American soccer fans. We are nothing if not so hopeful about our possibilities. Somebody said, well, Pep closed the door of managing in Major League Soccer, NYCFC, but he left it open to coach the U.S. men's national team.
He also left the door open to coach Australia.
That's right. He did. He did that too. Pep Guardiola is still a young enough man that he's going to. We can imagine him managing somewhere else after City. I guess it just kind of depends on how the City project ends for him. Whether he leaves of his own accord, whether the club collapses under the weight of 130 charges. We just don't know how this is going to
go. We'll see what happens. Long ball number 3, moving right along here on this hemisphere of the soccer world. The CONCACAF Champions Cup draw happened. No longer CONCACAF Champions League. Explain it to the folks out there who aren't following along. What is this tournament, and what is it? Is it renamed of a tournament from before?
Yeah, I mean, it's what the CONCACAF Champions League was before, but they just basically decided to do away with the group phase. They weren't going to do the league phase that UEFA is now trying to pull off. So instead, it is now a cup, meaning you have just these matchups. We have round 1, round of 16, obviously all the way quarterfinals, semifinals. This is one half of the draw. You can see it here. The clubs in the round of 16 they get buys. I can't remember why they get buys. Probably because they're league champions, but they get buys. Club America gets a bye. The LA Galaxy get a bye into the round of 16. Round 1 here, you have Chivas de Guadalajara and Cibao. Cibao is a Dominican club, so the winner of that will face off against America. Cruz Azul and Real Hope, which is out of Haiti.
Ooh.
Seattle and Antigua. I believe Antigua is a Guatemalan side. So Seattle, if they get past the Guatemalan side, will face off more than likely against a powerhouse of Mexican football in Cruz Azul. You have another Mexican club, Tigres against Real Esteli. I believe that is I want to say that it's a Nicaraguan team. I think I got that one right. Cincinnati, MLS team against Motagua of Honduras. Seattle, Herediano. Herediano's out of Costa Rica. So the winner of that will get the Galaxy. And then on the other side of the bracket, we've got, let me put that back up, LAFC and Colorado matched up against one. It's so exciting, these exotic matchups in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, like LAFC versus Colorado. Winner of that will get Columbus. Columbus gets a bye in the round of 16.
That is thrilling stuff.
Yeah. Miami gets Sporting Kansas City, another exciting MLS versus MLS matchup.
A not-so-cavalier matchup?
Cavalier gets the bye. Cavalier's out of Jamaica, I want to say. Miami and Sporting, will Lionel Messi play in Kansas City, I guess is the question. By the way, these are all two-legged ties.
Oh, that was my next question.
Yeah, these are all two-legged ties. Monterrey of Mexico against Forge. Forge is from the Canadian Premier League. Winner of that game will get the winner of Vancouver, MLS representative from Canada because they won the Canadian Championship, against Saprissa of Costa Rica, perennial participant in this tournament. Pumas of Mexico against Calvary. I believe that is another Canadian team.
It is.
Out of Calgary. Calvary. It's a mouthful. And the winner of that game will get Alajuelense of Costa Rica, who has a bye to the round of 16. So
I'm glad that you said that Costa Rican name. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm super excited about this. I'll be honest with you, Rob. Like those matchups are not they're not the sexiest. Miami Sporting? Really? That's what we get? Miami versus Sporting? We get LAFC versus Colorado?
Yeah.
All, do I remember how Colorado got qualified for this? No, I do not. No, I do not remember.
Yeah. Yeah, did they finish higher than somebody in something? Did they go to the MLS Cup final, the Open Cup final, or did they win something 5 years ago that gave them points to qualify?
Well, that's how the Club World Cup works. We know if you won, the league a couple years ago. Actually, I can tell you. Okay, so here you go. There were cups in different parts of CONCACAF. So the Caribbean Cup was won by Cavalier out of Jamaica. That's why they are there and why they have a bye. Alajuelense won the Central American Cup, which is why they have a bye. Columbus won the Leagues Cup, which is why they have a bye. And
I was there.
The two champions of the big leagues in North America, Liga MX, Club America, and Major League Soccer, the LA Galaxy. In terms of, so the Rapids, they finished third in the Leagues Cup. That's why they get a berth in this tournament. The Leagues Cup gives multiple berths to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. LAFC Colorado got in by virtue of their participation and their finish in that competition. So there you go. There's your, and Sporting, of course, won the 2024 U.S. Open, or finished second, rather, in the U.S. Open Cup in 2024, which with, who's the other, we had, who won the Open Cup last year?
The Open Cup was won by an MLS team. I know.
Yeah.
Jenny save us. LAFC.
LAFC won the Open Cup. Okay. And they qualified already through the Leagues Cup, which is why Sporting gets a berth, because as Open Cup runners-up, they get in as the Open Cup representative because LAFC had qualified through other means. So there you go.
One of my favorite things a silver lining, the two-legged thing, I'd say is a silver lining just because teams from non-United States or Mexico get to host a game because I don't know if you've ever seen it. Some of the games in Costa Rica and the island nations are an absolute scene. And it's great fun. Like, it's not often like Monterrey goes to Jamaica or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, that is the closest I think we come to kind of like pseudo FA Cup sort of style at that level.
Like that. Yeah.
Of like, the big teams come into the small town that's like never, been on television before.
It
sort
is
of
a
thing.
wild situation. The spectrum that is sort of the facilities, obviously the quality of players is a factor, thing here. Cavalier out of Jamaica is just not going to have the same kind of players as Inter Miami, who they could face in the second round or the round of 16. But Inter Miami would then have to go to Jamaica, which would be fun to see. Is Lionel Messi going to show up in Jamaica when they face off against Cavalier? That is a story for sure.
Viewers will have to keep tuned in keenly to these matchups, see if any of these teams are playing on like cricket pitches, because that was one of the most fun games I think, interesting games I've ever seen.
CONCACAF is, I think, one of the only places in the world, CONCACAF Champions Cup now, where while you watch the game, you also see the ambulance that is pitch side just in case a player gets hurt. Like, it's right there.
Ready to be driven on.
Yeah, there are people climbing trees to watch. Imagine Lionel Messi in Jamaica, and I got to check in on a Cavaliers stadium situation, but I can't imagine it's a totally enclosed venue. That's probably not the case. People are going to be climbing trees to get a glimpse of Lionel Messi if he ends up playing in Jamaica. That would be great.
Yeah, for context, these games, this tournament's going to start in February 2025. Maybe when we get to the beginning of the tournament, maybe we'll do like a stadium preview and look to see where some of these venues are happening. We'll kind of get a peek at the CONCACAFery on display. I think that term getting CONCACAF started when the United States men's national team played on a cricket pitch in the Caribbean,
maybe.
Right? That's kind of where that term blew up, right? But
Could
that is today's Long Balls. Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Morning Kick Around on YouTube. Follow along. M Kick Around on X, Instagram, and that thing Blue Sky. All right, we're going to take a breath, come right back. Prepare yourself for a culture war. Culture War here on Wednesday, December 11th. As we speak to you here via your screens, the FIFA Soccer Congress, as it called, is formally announcing the next two World Cups, 2030 and 2034. We've pushed this off, have not wanted to mentally engage this subject on the show just yet, but seeing as how it's happening right now, we have to. You said it in the pre-show that maybe the era of good World Cups is over. Is that, you think, is that too cynical?
The era of good World Cups is over. Yeah, the era of feel-good World Cups maybe is over. And that's probably also a function that we were not as in tune with things as we should have been at times. I mean, Rob, you were telling a story about back in 2014 when we all had heard that the Brazilian government was going to clear out the favelas and try to pretty up the country at the expense of a lot of people in their homes. You had an inclination not to watch. You thought about boycotting, right? And what happened? Did you boycott?
I think like the first day.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? And I remember doing Soccer Morning and starting my radio career and talking a lot about the mental gymnastics that we as soccer fans have to do. Now,
beautiful and the dirty side by side.
If you're a club over country person, you maybe can still kick this can down the road a little bit, although I don't know. Like at this point, things are getting kind of wild and woolly there too with Super League stuff and all that. But if you care about the World Cup, if you care about international competition, you kind of have to do business mentally with FIFA. It's impossible not to. And then FIFA does stuff that make you want to vomit, throw up, you want to boycott, right? I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday in light of this news about the 2030 World Cup and the 2034 World Cup, which Saudi Arabia is going to get. These things are going to happen by acclamation. There's not going to be a vote. FIFA's deciding, and there's not going to be any opposition. The only nation that has decided to actually have an issue with Saudi Arabia being handed the 2034 World Cup is Norway. And I think a letter was read out at the Congress about their dislike of certain elements of Saudi Arabia. But I was thinking about this. I remember just conceiving of the idea of how do you get away from all this? And it's the same thing that American soccer fans who don't like U.S. soccer have gone through. The only way is sort of a nuclear option, starting another federation, right? Starting up an opposing federation, like sort of like an anti-pope situation. Like, we got to start our own federation and then battle the current federation for control of things like the national team or youth registration or referee education or whatever it is you want a federation to do. It would have to be the same thing. top nations, meaningful countries in the world of football, whether because of money or their legacy on the field, would have to pull out of FIFA. They would have to say, we don't want this anymore. And I'm talking about England. I'm talking about France. I'm talking about Germany. I'm talking about Brazil. I'm talking about Italy, United States, because of money mainly. Those countries would have to get together and collude to break away from FIFA. And almost certainly what would happen initially is that FIFA would say, all right, well, you're out of the World Cup because you broke away. Is any one of those countries comfortable being kicked out of the World Cup? No, because everybody benefits. The money that is there. I mean, this is why only Norway has said anything about Saudi Arabia being gifted, being handed through Gianni Infantino and the absolute just graft that is happening out in the open, right? This is the difference between the Sepp Blatter era and the Gianni Infantino era. Sepp Blatter was a useful idiot, and the people around him were passing paper bags of money back and forth. And I think I've already said this on the show, but I'm going to say it again. Gianni Infantino, no, none of that. We're just going to do it, and you can't stop us. We are going to make it so Saudi Arabia can spend billions of dollars. We will benefit as FIFA. It will go straight into our pockets. And what is anybody going to say? We don't want this. We're going to break away from FIFA? No, they hold all the cards on this, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's mental gymnastics is such a good way to put it. Is, as you know, soccer enthusiasts and lovers, you know, the World Cup is the pinnacle, and it's what we look forward to. It only comes around every 4 years, and you don't want to be part of the problem. Like, I want to watch the pinnacle of the thing that I enjoy the most.
Exactly.
And to like have to feel bad about it because it's besmirched.
Sucks.
By the hosts and the people organizing it. And there's so many different morally reprehensible things, like ignoring nature, ignoring human rights, ignoring all the problems that, you know, huge populations from within the sport itself have problems with. I mean, and then also part of it is rearranging the standard stuff, like, because, you know, the Saudi Arabia thing, they'll have to play it in the winter. And so there'll be another round of upheaval of the club. So not only does it impact, you know, the international stage, but also besmirches the club scene.
Shout out to Nate, always here. The Champions League is the pinnacle, not the World Cup. That is true in terms of the quality of the play. There's no doubt that the Champions League, at the later rounds especially, is the height of soccer as it's played on the field. But of course, you know, the World Cup is much more about the quality, much more than just the quality of play, right? It's an opportunity, especially for us as Americans who didn't really have anything else, right? Our league was growing and starting and is still very much second, third tier. You know, to have a chance to prove ourselves as a nation, right? That's what we desperately want as American soccer fans, to be validated by the rest of the world. And if we can do that, the World Cup is the opportunity to do that, right? It's a place we can go and maybe show that we can play this game, and people will notice. Now, I want to kind of get us to understanding what's going on today, Robert, a little bit. So 2030, a World Cup that's going to be awarded today. Generally speaking, I mean, sort of in the thrust of this is Morocco, Spain, and Portugal are going to share this World Cup. This is a 3-country World Cup. And these are relatively small countries. I think Spain could probably pull off, I don't know, it's 48 teams. Maybe Spain can't even pull that off. But they're going to join up. Now, the other part of this World Cup, though, is because it is the 100th anniversary of the first World Cup in Uruguay, they're going to play games, 1 game each, in Argentina and Uruguay. 1 game each. And because of rules that FIFA put in place a long time ago,
Paraguay, too.
Paraguay, three countries.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina. Yeah.
What matters though, for what I'm about to say, I want to make sure I get that right. You're correct. But what matters here in terms of the Saudi Arabia bid is that because games are happening in South America can therefore not bid. No South American country or combination of countries can bid on the 2034 World Cup, because FIFA has in place you cannot have consecutive World Cups in the same confederation. In fact, you can't host either of the next 2 World Cups if you have a World Cup in that confederation. So South America cannot have a World Cup in 2034 or 2038 because of a tiny number of games.
3 games
happening in South America. All right? So then what that means is, I think there are only 2 confederations that are eligible to host in 2034 or to bid. Oceania, which, let's be honest, there's no country that has the facilities to host a World Cup in Oceania, and Asia, right? And Asia's got Australia, who was interested, and Saudi Arabia, who was still in this massive sports washing phase and was ready to lay down money like the Qataris to have their World Cup. Australia pulled out. And they pulled out basically because they knew there was no shot at this. And because FIFA accelerated the process of awarding the 2034 World Cup, remember, we're 10 years away from this World Cup. 10 years away from this thing. Because they accelerated the process, Australia didn't have time to get the contracts out. They didn't have time to get the negotiations started with stadiums for sports other than soccer, because you know you're going to need, the Melbourne stadiums for the big games and things like that. They weren't able to do that. So they were like, nope, we're out. Leaving only Saudi Arabia. I mean, how convenient is it that everybody got out of the way so Johnny could get his way and Saudi Arabia could get this World Cup? And we talked about this last week. They dropped the report on the bid preparedness of Saudi Arabia.
This is the dirtiest bit.
They gave this bid, and they dropped this in the middle of the night, Thanksgiving week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, Thanksgiving weekend. Dropped it in the middle of the night. They gave Saudi Arabia the highest score they have ever given any potential host nation. And they don't have the stadiums. This is very much like Qatar. They have to build everything. Now we know they have the money to build everything, but how are they going to build everything, Rob? Who are they going to use to build everything?
They will
Saudi
be
Arabia?
using the most well-paid, highest qualified people that are not being subjugated whatsoever.
The only fun thing about this, and I feel bad even making this joke. I'll be honest. I'm a person who thinks comedy has a place in nearly every situation. All right, I feel bad making this joke, but the only joy I get out of this is that here is the proposed King Salman Stadium in Riyadh. Okay, this is supposed to be the host of maybe the opening ceremony. First of all, what the hell is this thing? What is it? What's happening there? When you see this, Rob, tell me you don't also see this.
Before you did the big reveal, I was going to say that stadium does kind of make me hungry, and now, boom, one of my favorite Taco Bell items.
There it is. Now, it's green. If you had a green Crunchwrap Supreme, you probably wouldn't eat it on the outside. If it was green on the outside, you probably, maybe it's going to be drenched in some guacamole. It could be drenched in guacamole. Sure, why not?
Man, oh man, it's never too early to order Mexican. All you had to do was put up that picture. I'm salivating over here, but you're right. It's quite the design.
Now, I had a comment on Blue Sky. Follow me on Blue Sky, Davis Jason, over there. I had a comment on Blue Sky say, isn't this supposed to be a desert? Isn't Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, isn't that a desert? How is it so green? That's, okay. I mean...
And and I think the top of that is that that is kind of some cool outside the box thinking. If it looks like they have like some grass or some shrubberies growing out on the outside to almost have like a faux underground sort of appearance.
Yeah.
But yeah, where is this water and green life coming from?
People, here's any other suggestions for what this looks like. Nate says it looks like a rebel base from Star Wars, which
I like that.
Yeah, kind of does. Maybe on indoor or something. I don't know. I don't know enough Star Wars history.
You nailed it. Right. Don't be undercover. You were a Star Wars nerd. You nailed it.
I am not. I like Star Wars in like the most casual way possible. Like the original movies. Watch some of the shows. But people made fun of Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium with that aperture because it looked like a certain thing. Does this not look like that certain thing also? Does this not also... In Spanish, my wife would say it looks like a fondillo. A fondillo is...
A fondillo if you've been sitting in the moss.
Yeah. If you are a naturist and you were sitting around on some moss-covered logs, your fondillo might look like this at the end of the day. That's what that is. Man, it's just, again, I feel bad even laughing about that. I feel bad.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but walking back, I really liked how you spelled it out because I didn't really think about this in this perspective, like how the 2030 being across 3 continents kind of sets it up for Saudi Arabia to be the one in the spotlight. It reminds me, this is a little bit of a jump, but the Sopranos episode where Tony and Mrs. Soprano are going through some tough stuff and she's talking to divorce lawyers. And Tony Soprano goes around to every reputable divorce lawyer in town so that they could not engage with Mrs. Soprano because it would be a conflict of interest. Almost just like, occupying everybody else so that there's only one remaining.
Yeah, I think that also happened in Succession. I remember Jeremy Strong's character having that same issue or something like that. Yeah, this is manipulation of the process at a level so brazen. It's, again, you can't even get to this place of, oh, well, it's just a couple of bad actors. Like, the corruption is
global.
there, right? The corruption is there in the case of the Sepp Blatter era, right? The corruption is there. We know people are taking money from the game, putting it in their own pockets. Again, Jack Warner, Chuck Blazer, they were notorious for it, but it wasn't just them. It was happening in Africa. It was happening in South America. Remember, we are 9 years removed and a little bit more from that moment when Sepp Blatter resigned as FIFA president because of the investigations, because of the Justice Department investigations into FIFA. I went back and looked. I was doing Soccer Morning at the time. I had Grant Wall on the show to talk about this 9 years ago. First of all, I'm much better looking now than I was back then, so just keep that in mind if you go and look at the video. I don't know, just like looking at myself going, whoa.
Your lighting's better.
Whoa. Maybe that was a thing. I don't know. But that's how long this has been, that we've been talking about these things. And again, Johnny Infantino is not better. He is worse because he does not care about hiding any of this. It is right there. It is sort of faux legal. It is using the system and manipulating it and molding it to your ends because King Salman wants to give you, or King whoever wants to give you $1 billion.
Yeah, in context, in the Sepp Blatter era, was it Jack Warner or the American, I just lost his name, the American representative?
Chuck Blazer.
Chuck Blazer, he was buying penthouse apartments for his cats.
Yes.
Whereas this new iteration is using, global manipulation and, faux slavery. So there has been a bit of a change.
Is that one of those cats that we're hearing right now?
Chuck Blazer's cat?
Chuck Blazer's cat is in your house? I didn't know you adopted Chuck Blazer's cats, Rob.
No,
Nice
we did get one off the street, and like any sort of malady that you could get from a cat you get off the street, we've inherited.
Oh,
and,
lovely.
It's not fixed yet, so I think that's the call to a gentleman caller is actually what you're hearing in the back.
I see. Lovely stuff. That fits this theme.
Yeah, and my old Chihuahua female, she doesn't know what's going on. It's getting weird over here.
All right. Well, let's keep it weird and move on to something very MLS.
Yes, very MLS. Let's roll on. Click subscribe if you haven't. Let's take a break. Come right back with American soccer being weird. Welcome in. Soccer is weird here in the United States, and today a uniquely American event will go down. 10:30 Eastern, the expansion draft for brand new franchise San Diego FC.
Yes, San Diego will get to pick 5 players from a pool of a lot. I think it's like 300 or something. MLS teams were able to protect 12 players on their current rosters, which means a lot of players who are pretty good are going to be left unprotected. There's also this other side of this. So, again, San Diego can only pick 5. The chances you get picked are pretty small. It depends on your salary, obviously your age, what San Diego's looking for. San Diego could grab players in a bid to trade them, either back to the team that currently has them, which is such a weird MLS thing, or to somebody else. That's a thing they could try to get assets that way. But I also think the other part of this is for the clubs who have to leave certain guys unprotected. Those guys are like, what the hell, man? What the hell? You're leaving me unprotected? Come on. And then you got to deal with that.
That's a uniquely American feeling, right? I mean, I understand like maybe it comes out in the news for a European player that, you're being shopped or whatever, but just like, some other team can come get you. That's okay.
Well, in Europe, this again, this is the thing. And MLS has gotten better about this. It's started to take on it started to move in the right direction in terms of this. But in Europe, you can't be sold unless you want to go. Right? Now, you may have to negotiate with, if your team really doesn't want you, they may say, hey, we really don't want you. You're going to sit on the bench and you're not going to play. You don't want to be here anymore. And they may force your hand to leave. But the player has to assent to a move. In this case, very much like an MLS trade or anything else, the player doesn't have any say. If you get picked, you get picked. Now you're a San Diego FC player, at least for a moment.
Some of you said that the list of available players is pretty large, but after scanning the list, some of the notable available players include Carlos Vela, Hector Herrera, Victor Wanyama, Joseph Martinez, Kai Kamara, Julian Gressel, Luis Muriel, Alex Ring, Yamil Assad.
None of those guys are getting picked. Not a single one of those guys is getting picked.
Too
Nobody's
old.
picking Ache. No, that's not happening on his
Not
salary.
even in
I mean,
San Diego.
no, well, first of all, his rights are held by the Dynamo, but he's not a Dynamo player anymore. We know he's leaving. No, I think San Diego's going to want to sign their own big budget players. They already have Chuco Lozano coming in, so that's one they can check off in terms of those spots. You don't want to sign a player that's going to eat up a bunch of your salary. You want to go pick that guy yourself, probably, or sign that guy yourself. There may be some young talent here, some guys that are sort of building blocks that I could see get taken. I mean, it's really, it comes down to what San Diego wants to do. Do they want to use these as assets to sell, or do they want to use these players as actual pieces to build upon? So, I don't know.
I know there's kind of been a mixed online response to what San Diego's done so far. What could they do tonight where your eyebrows go, I don't know if they're beating down the right trail here?
Well, pick one of those big names. Pick a big expensive name, and then okay, what is that about? Raul Ruiz Diaz, is he going back to Seattle? How much are you going to pay him in terms of salary? I mean, you have to negotiate a deal with the guys that are out of contract. So there's that. I mean, you can draft a player and have his rights, but there's no guarantee that if he doesn't have a contract, you're going to be able to get one done. So it is fascinating. I'm not enmeshed enough in San Diego's thinking. Mikey Veras as a coach to say, well, that's a guy they should definitely pick or whatever. I mean, again, if they take a big name, a DP level player, I would be shocked.
Kind of searching in your memory banks, who is a player that get picked up that or is there anyone that's on that availability list that, seemed like an integral part to their MLS club and you're kind of surprised? Because my mind kind of goes back to 2017 Latif Blessing.
Okay, but
like
this
he
is the
seemed
risk.
an important player.
Obviously turned out to be a very good player for LA FC for a while. So that's a good one. That's interesting. I'll say that, you take a risk. If you're Seattle, like for example, you're Seattle, they want Albert Rusnak to come back. He was massive for them this season. He's unprotected. He's right there. San Diego wants to take Albert Rusnak. They could do that. Now, if they take him and Seattle says, yeah, he's yours, they are now on the hook for paying Albert Rusnak what he makes. And I believe, DP level contract, Albert Rusnak at one point. I think they want to try to get him down, the number down in Seattle, because then that opens up other opportunities for them to sign other players, and they want to build for next year after this year making a conference final. But it could be a bluff situation because Seattle wants him. But if San Diego takes him, Seattle doesn't have to take him back. They don't have to trade assets to get back a player they just had if they don't want to. I think the best story that I can recall, and I'm glad you brought up Latif Blessing. That's a really, truly smart pick that turned out good for Bob Bradley and LAFC. But my fun story about the MLS expansion draft is that when Montreal entered the league, Montreal Impact, I believe 2011, 2012, something like that, Brian Chang was on the tail end of his career with the Houston Dynamo. And, of course, Brian Chang's a Dynamo legend. He'd helped them win multiple trophies. He'd done some things in San Jose as well. The Impact picked him, and he said, I would rather retire than play for you. I would rather retire than eat poutine. No, I don't know what it was about. He didn't want to leave Houston.
That's like an Eli Manning move. Didn't Eli Manning get drafted, and he kind of cried, and then he got traded to the Giants?
That is 100% right. So, he didn't want to go there and force the hand of the clubs that were interested, or the teams that were interested. Brian Ching was a Montreal player for a brief period of time, and then the Dynamo did what they needed to do from a loyalty perspective and traded back. And Jesse Marsh, giant cojones on that guy, because it was not the nice thing to do to take Brian Ching, a club legend in Houston, who really probably didn't have a lot of utility for the Impact in their first season. But Jesse Marsh was like, oh, no, we think Brian Ching can be a good part of our new franchise in Montreal. And then, of course, it was, we'll sell him back to you for a price. It was that, you know.
So, I mean, I guess
Extortion.
that's on
MLS
Houston.
style.
That's on Houston. Houston allowed themselves to be extorted there in that situation.
That's true. But again, comes back to the fact you can only protect so many players. So if you don't protect players like Brian Ching and they get picked, you got to deal with the repercussions of it. I mean, and I haven't, again, you talked about the names on this list that are sort of the notable ones that are like, oh wow, I can't believe that guy's sitting out there for San Diego to pick. Yeah, that's a thing. But again, there's sort of this, there's only 5 picks. It's only 5. There's a lot of names here. There's only 5. Are they really going to take somebody with a big cap number that's going to tie them up if they're not able to get rid of that player right away? You don't want to have to bring in a player and go, well, actually, we don't want you, so we're going to cancel your contract, because they have to buy it out, right? It'll be on their books unless they use a buyout, and you don't want to use a buyout on something like that. Chicago, Fabian Herbers maybe could be interesting. FC Cincinnati, I see Corey Baird always makes an effort, always a game player. Nicholas Giacchini is there, Nick Hageland, Alvis Powell back into his career. Colorado Rapids, Lalas Abubakar has been decent defender in this league.
Yeah, that
Jasper
sounds like
Laffelson.
Abubakar is the first name that you've read that seems like he's probably not a big money hit, and he's always been a handy, useful player. Like, the expansion draft essentially is to like get squad players, right?
Yeah, more than anything else, I guess that's probably true. I mean, again, you could make an argument that, hey, we need a veteran present. Very much the way that Dax McCarty bounced between different clubs and was the guy, like in Nashville. If they didn't have Dax McCarty, would they have been as good as they were out of the gates? Probably not. You think about Lorenowitz in Atlanta, same kind of thing, right?
Was that expansion draft?
I don't remember if Lorenowitz came through the expansion draft, but could you see that? Could you make an argument? And again, the cap number is a thing, but could you make an argument? Hey, Sebastian Leget's unprotected by Dallas. That's a veteran player, who's done very well in this league. He comes with some baggage these days, but still, maybe that's a guy. Maybe
we
that's
talked
your guy.
about Elise with the glow up, going from Palace to Bayern. Lorenowitz going from the Fire to Atlanta is wow. He was considering retiring, and then he ended up having an amazing run there and winning an MLS Cup there.
Yeah, rejuvenated his career. Maybe there's somebody on this list who could have their career rejuvenated by San Diego.
Outside of the expansion draft, what do you think? Or what move would you like to see from this new team that could generate actual both excitement and practicality? I mean, some people have thought that the Chucky Lozano selection was just a way to pander to the local audience.
Sure,
and,
yeah, it is,
and whatnot. But what do you think? Who would you like to see them bring in that would both bring excitement and practicality on the field?
Wow, it's a good question. I don't really have an obvious candidate in mind. I mean, again, Chucky Lozano, you're going for the Mexican-American crowd with that signing. Maybe you're hoping to bring some people over from the Tijuana side of the border to watch your team play. I guess that could be a thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm here for the Dax McCartys of the world, and he's retired. So who's kind of the next guy? Could it be a Diego Chara, for example? Chara, if I want to be specific about that. Let me check and see if he is unprotected, because, again, it's not like they don't want to bring him back. Yeah, Diego Chara is unprotected. Don't know how much he's making. It's probably north of $500,000, $750,000. Maybe he's making $1 million. I don't actually know. Maybe he's a TAM player at this point. And he's backside his career only because of his age, but who wouldn't say Diego Chara wouldn't make you better in year one if you're an expansion team?
There was a name on this list that for a brief moment I really, really liked him, and I completely forgot he was in the league. Bobby Wood, available for the expansion draft.
Bobby Wood. Yeah, forgot he was in the league too. Who was he playing with?
New England.
New England, yeah. Because he was in Salt Lake for a little while, and then he was playing for Bruce in New England, and obviously the last year and a half have been very wild and woolly for the New England Revolution. Who may finally get their stadium? Is that a thing? We need to do like a
real estate
catch-up.
roundup.
Yeah, well, in other stadium news, as we get ready to close out the show, Red Bull Arena's got a new name. Did you know that, Rob? Did you know about this?
I
Did you hear
didn't
about
know
this?
it until you. Did I hear
I feel
about
like
it?
a
Are you? Am I
late
on
night
the
talk
Leno?
shows. Yeah. Did you hear about this?
Did you
know
see
about this?
it? I didn't until you told me at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, so Red Bull Arena now has a new sponsor. It is Sports Illustrated. So it will be called Sports Illustrated Stadium. And I think if people don't know, Sports Illustrated has been zombified. It's been split up. There is an editorial Sports Illustrated that is owned by one entity, and then there is the naming, like the rights to the name, marketing, what licensing. Like if you want to, you could go to the company that owns the licensing for Sports Illustrated, and you could be like, I want to make Sports Illustrated, I don't know, beer cozies. And they'd be like, yeah, 100%. That's great. We'll license you the name Sports Illustrated so you can make Sports Illustrated beer cozies. Or is it koozies? I don't know.
Yeah,
which
so
one it
Sports
is.
Illustrated, no, not really a magazine anymore. Just a
No,
brand.
they don't. No, they don't print a magazine at all. So that's ugly and gross, and I understand that's part of the world. But they also use a lot of AI writing over there at the actual editorial Sports
Which
Illustrated.
is wild because
So
it was the pinnacle. The brand exists because of the pinnacle
I
of
know.
sports writing.
I know and I think there's a younger audience out there who are like, whatever, I don't care. What Sports Illustrated, it doesn't mean anything to me.
No.
But I'm telling you, if you are of a certain age, and you and I, Rob, are of a certain age, there was nothing bigger in the world of sports in terms of writing than Sports Illustrated. There
I
just
mean,
wasn't.
people still know like the covers of certain issues
Yes.
that last forever. Like we've been talking about Grant Wall. He's come up a couple times. So the LeBron cover for
Yeah.
Grant Wall, one of the biggest periodical pieces.
The Ali Frazier cover, I think Mickey Mantle. I think there's a Mickey Mantle cover that's very famous. I mean, just years and years and decades of sports history in this country chronicled by that magazine, and now it is this. I compared it on my Blue Sky account. I compared it to like Weekend at Bernie's, only instead of like having beach fun with Bernie, you like dress him up like a tech bro, and then you make him burn down your house. Like your childhood home is what it's happening. They're burning down my childhood home right now, Rob, with all this. Oh, and there's also some blockchain ticketing technology thing happening with this too, which
Please tell me that the swimsuit issue is still a thing. I mean, kids know about the swimsuit issue at least, right?
you know what? That's probably part of the licensing side rather than the editorial side. They probably do print a Sports Illustrated. It's the only thing that gets printed, is my guess. I actually don't know this at all. Let's say that Sports Illustrated scratched both a sports itch for a young Jason Davis and some other ones as well. Let's just say that and leave it there, right?
Yeah, we're talking about notable covers. I'll never forget Heidi Klum on the cover for the first time. That was a notable magazine cover indeed. Going back to the San Diego point, Nate threw out a name, Gio Reyna to San Diego.
If Landon Donovan had his way, Gio Reyna would be playing in San Diego next season. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it's time for Gio to give up on the European dream. I think he needs to find somewhere to play, and I don't think that it looks like that's Dortmund at the moment, and it might not be for a while. But, yeah, the idea of coming back to Major League Soccer just because he would play every week kind of makes me a little bit interested. Yeah, I don't know if San Diego will be the right place, though. I don't know. Expansion team, Gio? I don't know.
We shall see. Expansion draft 10:30 Eastern tonight. We'll see what the foundational blocks of the new team in San Diego will turn out to be. Thank you everyone for tuning in to the live program here on Wednesday. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and become one of our early founding members of the MK Ultras. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow along at Kickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Now accepting listener questions and nominations for Get to Know Your District. So, you think that this morning's been thoroughly kicked, Mr. Jason Davis?
I believe we've done just about the best job we could do kicking this thing. I'm going to go and cry into my pillow about FIFA just tearing apart the world's most beautiful game.
And I'm going to live on the edge of having fun at the company party without getting myself fired.
Shots,
all right?
shots.
Yeah, if all of a sudden this show starts every single day, you'll know how the Christmas party went. All right. See you next time, guys.
Bye-bye.